welcome back everyone. I did make a video on YouTube and it did get censored again. I guess I was talking about something I shouldn't have talked about, or they said it was medical misinformation again, and if I keep doing it, then I'm probably going to lose this channel, which I don't even know why I still post stuff on YouTube. It's not like I'm getting any reach here at all. Like I swear my videos get more views on Rumble. But this time we're going to talk about this depopulation situation just real quick, because we're in some real crazy times. All right. Just a quick overview. There's the censorship. I mean, that should be alarming to everybody how bad it is. Like, throughout history, the people that were the good guys were not people trying to censor people and put, what did Hillary Clinton say? Something about re-education camps or something, whatever she said. This is a crazy time to be witnessing what's going on, especially in America, where we have this thing that's supposedly the Constitution, where we have this supposedly protection for free speech. But the way that they bypass everything in the Constitution is they just hand it over to corporate. So now if you want to fly, well, you got to go to the TSA. If you want to do anything, then you got to do this. A minute ago, it was like if you wanted to do anything, you had to have proof that you had a vaccine. And, for a little while there, they were really pushing that, and it was sticking. A lot of people were falling in line on that one. And it's going to happen again. These people that fell in line last time, they're falling in line for other things, left and right, just all. And when I say left and right, I mean people on the left and people on the right. And as long as you all are out there being divided and conquered and continuing to perpetuate this left and right crap, we as all one people are not going to be one people, and the people upstairs are going to crush us. They're doing it no problem crushing us. Anytime they want to do something awful, they got half of you idiots cheerleading it. So I don't know what to do to try to snap people out of this left-right stuff, like especially left, because it looks like the government that's being run by the left, which is the Democrats apparently. They don't look much like the left that I grew up being a part of. But anyway, they are completely corporately captured, and if you look in your history books and see what that actually means, that means fascism. They use the corporations are using them to enforce policies and do things like war actions and stuff. So we'll get into all that, but all right, to start the list off, we're going to get right into the poisoning, which is constant and ongoing, and it's ever present in everything. They're poisoning everything. All your food supply is being poisoned. The air is poisoned. The water is poisoned. Like, everything is poisoned. They're spraying this Monsanto stuff, despite the fact that, some of the biggest litigation in the history of the world is being pounded on the company. They're still putting out the Roundup. They're still putting out the agricultural, industrial loads of it, which increase, annually, because, it takes more. Things get immune to it, and you have to spray more of it. And it's already still all there that they sprayed before. The spraying is not stopping. You look up in the sky, and that's continuing. All the poisoning is being ramped up, in fact. And, what they call medicine is just simply, I don't want to go out on this medical information thing, misinformation or whatever, but we are in a place where there should be, more focus on healthy living, which is almost impossible these days. I mean, even all the produce is there's so many things I could talk about with how bad everything is and how hard it is to have a healthy lifestyle and eat healthy. But you should try to move about and not be stagnant. They're coming for you. And if if you haven't noticed, critical thinking is under attack in a big way, in so many ways. But one of the ways it's coming, and it's rapidly taking hold of all kinds of things. Like, we're talking about AI, all right? AI is already controlling all these social media apps. Every time I've gotten some kind of Twitter thing, or, I speak the truth so much, it's apparently dangerous. So I've been banned from Twitter several times and currently am suspended. YouTube basically has me on a, final thread of my string holding me there before they get rid of me. And I mean, I haven't made any money off of YouTube. I probably the whole time this channel's existed, I've made about $300, maybe. But all that aside, the AI, the plan of the AI, as written by Henry Kissinger, is to make people so they don't think anymore. And I mean, it's already happening. I mean, if you look at people just sitting there glued to their phones all day, are they thinking, or are they just processing the information into their brains for whatever purpose? I don't know. I'm guessing a lot of it is psyops now, because it used to be like, oh, look, this is a great educational tool. And you know that the government never has a tool that they don't use for nefarious purposes. So once the government started taking over all these social media apps, which you've seen all the evidence of that with the Twitter files and other things that indicated that, intelligence agencies and other government interests are in the background controlling these social media apps. So that combined with the AI, I don't even know why people are even on these apps anymore, man. It's all complete brainwashing, and it's worse than the TV was for the boomers. But the AI is going to crush large portions of the population through Henry Kissinger's plan of just dumbing people down to the point where you don't have to make any decisions anymore. It's all just going to be made for you, and the best possible choice will already be the thing that you see as the thing in front of you. And robots too. Let's face it. The robots are they're coming, and they're coming in nefarious ways. They're coming in every way that's not good. They're coming to take over jobs. We've already seen humanoid robots being enacted in workplaces. We've seen dog robots being used for spying and security and policing actions. We see these videos from Boston Dynamics and others where they show capabilities that they want us to see. We know that the capabilities are way beyond what they're showing us. Drones as well, we're still just seeing the drone technology from the Gulf War era. Drones are so much more advanced now. Obviously, even consumer drones are more advanced than some of the drones that you think that the military are still using. But anyway, all of this aside, and when you consider that takeover of social media apps and other apparatuses to control the thinking and to get rid of the critical thinking, you also have to consider that there's people like me and others, and getting ran out of YouTube faster than a burning building. They're making us enemies of the state. They're making people we had that Dark Brandon moment with Joe Biden where he basically deemed all of Trump's supporters terrorists, pretty much. And then we go on farther down the road where they're consistently maligning people with, evil, terrible things like Nazis and this and that. It's funny because they do that. They say, oh, you're a Nazi because of this and that. But then when you tell them, well, what about you supporting the Nazis in Ukraine or anything that has to do with actual Nazi stuff, like the thing that happened in Canada with the honoring the Nazi war criminal. Somehow you can't, they're not Nazis when that happens, you know. So they want to deem all these people enemies of the state, so that, you know, obviously the Patriot Act was eventually going to be aimed at these people that dissented against whatever the state was going to do. And in this case, at first, you know, so far you have the censorship getting so bad that, you know, Owen Schroyer at the InfoWars is about to go check into jail for 60 days for speech. And, you know, I'm sure that if you're somebody that knows me and, hello? Oh. And you pay attention to, you get your news from left-wing sources or whatever the media is these days, you might think, well, you know, that he's from InfoWars, he's bad, you know, they spread all these lies. But look, man, it doesn't matter how you feel about the guy. This is what we said when they kicked Alex Jones off of Twitter, and then Trump, and before that they did all this stuff to Julian Assange. We were, people like me, people that care about freedom and free speech and that kind of stuff, were screaming like, hey, they're going to come after everybody like this. And as long as you're cool with it, they're going to eventually come after you, and no one's going to be there to back you up because you weren't there to back them up. You didn't care when they got thrown off. So it's enemies of the state, man. You don't want to have the government deeming people enemies of the state just because they don't go along with the thing. Now they're terrorists. Now the government can spy on them. Now they can throw you in jail for saying the wrong thing. This is starting to really quickly become what, you know, Nazi Germany was back in the day, you know, with the Gestapo and all that. And speaking of fascism, once again, we're going to go back to this corporate capture. So you got corporate capture. If you're a Democrat, and you should know this because Democrat voters have been wanting something like a Medicare for all type thing going on, like a national health service. They've been wanting that since I can remember, since I was born, since way before that. I think they were asking for it back in the 1890s or something. It's been a thing that they've never actually put in their platform, and they never really actually fight for, because they can always have somebody come through that's like, oh, I'm fighting for this, I'm going to get it. But it's never going to happen because the entire Democratic Party is completely captured by the insurance companies that would never allow it to happen because it would put them right out of business. All right? So that's where you start with people that still think voting for Democrats is a good idea. And then Big Pharma, obviously, you just seen how bad that corporate capture is. They just got everybody to do a thing for a thing. We don't even want to get into it because I don't want to get my channel vaporized for that. But Big Pharma, you know, all the companies that were allowed to make the remedy for the big pandemic that just happened were companies like Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson that were basically getting bankrupted by lawsuits. Well, not really, because lawsuits against these companies they're always just a slap on the hand, but they were some of the biggest lawsuits in the history of suits against pharmaceutical companies. One for fraud, that was Pfizer, and the other one, Johnson & Johnson, had several of them, actually. They were getting sued in the wake of the opioid crisis. They were also getting, you know, major litigation on their baby powder that was giving people cancer or whatever. So we know how bad that capture is. And then you got the military-industrial complex. You know how that capture works? Well, they get 60% of your taxes that you give the Fed. So all your federal tax money that you give every week or whatever that you pay your taxes, 6 out of every $10 of that goes right, 600 out of every 1,000 of that, 6,000 out of every 10,000 of that goes right to them guys. And they're giving it, now they just decided, oh, we're going to give money to these guys. They're money laundering it, and all these new wars that they're popping up left and right. Is that really good for us? Is that what you want to do with your tax money? You want to see that going to start World War III pretty much? Because that's what's happening. And these are all bank wars. The banksters they're fighting to see where the supremacy of the U.S. dollar is going from here, and don't look good. Looks like the U.S. dollar is getting rejected all over the world. The petrodollar is about to get abandoned by BRICS countries, and quite frankly, banksters have no other move except for go to war, because they fund both sides of every war, and they make profits no matter what off of all the oil and metals that needed to go into making bombs and blowing shit up, and then later on going back to rebuild it. That's all bankers that make all that money. All right, and then you got the oil barons who also make the money off the wars. They're playing with us on a regular basis, making gas prices whatever they feel like it at the time. It's insane how much power they have, and they have owned the government, every party member, Democrat, Republican, just like AIPAC. You can't be you can't say a critical thing against a certain country because, well, that's part of the censorship regime, will take you right out of the game. And by the way, all the government officials, Democrat and Republican, are mostly all funded by these lobbyists from that country. And then you got big tech. All right, big tech has completely captured the government. So much so that they make this mockery of free speech by pretending like they care about it. When the Congress gets Zuckerberg, or they had that Jack from Twitter up there and they were grilling them, making them censor people, and basically they were going along with it. Oh yes, we have to say that the Hunter Biden laptop story is Russian disinformation, don't you know? Now, all these people are also complicit in this controlled demolition of the U.S. economy. I mean, we all know that wages have not moved since the 70s, basically, yet inflation has happened almost consistently every few years, like 8 years, 10 years. Now we're seeing record inflation that we haven't seen in, since the 60s or 50s, or who even knows? Go back to the 30s. But there's no end in sight, and the inflation on things like housing and cars and shit is so bad that the average person, I don't even know how the average person is even making it. I mean, people used to just skim by on the fumes of their credit card, life, but now they can't even afford that. Credit card debt is at record high. We have a 30-year record high on defaults on car payments. So shit's bad. It's getting worse. There's no life raft out there. This is the controlled demolition of the U.S. economy. It started with all the printing of the money around COVID. All right, they did the CARES Act, and then they did, Rebuild America. They did all these things, whether it was Biden or Trump, either one. They both just printed money after printing money. And by the way, this printing of money had created more money than the U.S. economy has ever had before. Like, most of the money has been printed since COVID that's out there now. And that, what's going on? And when you speak about all these fascist situations where the corporations have captured the government, and there's no hope for you to get the government to do anything for you because, well, the corporations are using the government to enforce things to make you buy shit from them. And it's really bad in that regard, And if you think that's fascist, you should see the fascist shit going on in places like Canada and France, where they've literally made it illegal to protest certain things. If you're sympathetic to a certain group of, people that I can't, it's so touchy right now. I don't even know where the censorship is on this topic, but let's just say that if you live in France, you're not allowed to be a pro-Palestine protester. They'll call you a terrorist. It's a terrorist situation. And then in Canada, it's like they got this new thing coming out where I don't even know if my video I'm making right now is even allowed to be played up there anymore. I mean, this fascist takeover is super hardcore, and it's being done by people that are supposedly the liberal class of, you know, these rulers. And I don't know, there's nothing liberal about full fascism. There's nothing democratic about ending free speech for any reason or any part of it. And all this is on the eve of this WHO takeover, where the depopulation gang, led by Bill Gates and his, you know, evil, you know, sinister cartoon, you know, like villains, basically are talking about a new pandemic coming. You know, you even hear Fauci talking about it. Boy, it's just like the bankers with having war is the only play they have left. Well, when you're part of this gaggle of lunatics and psychopaths that just tried to, I don't know, apparently they killed a lot of people with the thing they did in the lab, and then the other thing they did didn't help either. But, you know, they think that their next move is a new pandemic, and they're talking about it, and they're pumping it, and they're acting like, hey, this is what we're going to do when the new pandemic comes, and it's all about the same lockdowns and masks and vaccines and all this. And basically the WHO is going to be an absolute dictatorial force, with literal police force being run by us, by America, like we always do, right? And yeah, I guess that's their only move. And the final move is World War III, which I guess is America's last gasp of its dying empire. You know, we're losing on all fronts. We got, you know, thinly spread out military, like taking just the last little knife of butter and hoping you can butter all your bread with it on 2 toasts. It's just not going to happen. You got your military spread thin all over the world. Nobody wants to join that shit. I'm hearing that even if you start up a draft, no one's going to still go, you know. So I don't know what the plan is here with the U.S. military acting like they're, like Biden said, you know, acting like we're some kind of Rome that's going to conquer anything that tries to get in our way. It's crazy talk, man. I mean, if you heard that speech by Biden the other day, that was some psychopathic shit. But anyway, this World War III is coming. I mean, it's coming faster than I would have thought it was. And the way they're doing it is they're acting like this plan that they have is okay, and that they can do war crimes, and it doesn't matter. And they're going to try to drag all these other people into it, which is already happening. And obviously the other side already has a lot of people on that side. So it's coming, man. And it sucks because there's nothing we can do to stop this. It's just like you're in a boat and all of a sudden the rapids just picked up and you're heading right to the waterfall. And man, what's our play? What's the play for all the people that don't want any of this shit to keep happening? I mean, we're like boxed into a corner. Everybody's forced to do their shitty jobs because inflation is so bad, you know. Next thing you know it, you're going to be one of these homeless people too. And it's like, what do we do? Anybody got any ideas?